Today on Dead Dodge Garage, the Studebaker is done. Oh, please be done. Oh, I should put the hubcaps on. Brake valve mounted. Speedo cable sheathed. Clutch linkage reworked and unscrewed. Gas leak unleaked, I think. Important suspension bolts found loose, unloosened. I'm not going to do an in-depth detailed video on installing the sway bar. It was really annoying and I never want to think about it again. But it's in there, and if you're handy enough, I'm sure you can handle it. Yep. Need more hands. Anyway, here we go. I think it's time we put this thing on the ground and test it for real on the highway, and then maybe wash it. And then I wash my hands of it. Throttle return springs reconspringulated with Mopar parts, of course. I hereby declare this Studebaker open. Oh yeah, my wrist is goofed up, but it's getting better. The cold idle speed is set right. The clutch is adjusted right. It goes right into gear without grinding. This is getting really good. Now, I can't really say it's done. There's no such thing as done with a car like this. It's done as far as I'm concerned, I think. Needs a detail job. Now that the clutch pedal's set right, the brake pedal does something, and I've adjusted the throttle and added double return springs, it actually feels normal instead of terrifying. It's pretty nice. Also, I can only imagine tightening the important control arm mounting bolts. Probably a good idea too. Yep, it's a Studebaker. Front end definitely feels more confident. I don't know if that's the sway bar upgrade or the control arms and steering assist not falling off anymore. Maybe it's a combination of all those things. Man, this is great to drive now. I can't even believe it. Cruising in 5th gear. It's quiet. It's smooth. It's no supercar, but it's pretty good. Definitely respectable performance. Not amazing, but respectable. I'm sure you can't tell from this perspective, but this thing used to wallow in the corners really badly, and that's pretty much gone. Remember, sway bars are your friend. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's brake contact on the left. I'm gonna have to fix that. It's getting warm in here. I don't think the temperature control works. Ow. I need my good rest. Ah, it works just fine. I suppose I'll go make sure the wheels aren't falling off. I tested the crap out of this before and never heard any knocking at all, so that's kind of weird. Did I say front right? Whatever. Front left. Heard brake caliper noise over here. We're gonna have to put it back on the lift and do a little bit more grinding. Studebaker's back on the lift. I broke a wheel stud, which I don't want to talk about. I did clearance both of the front calipers. Actually couldn't find any witness marks at all, but I gave them a little more extra grinding. Hopefully that helps. This car is gonna get wire wheels in the near future, and then there will be plenty of room for brake clearance anyway. I just finished this hood pin for safety. During the first video, I was having problems getting the hood to latch, and a commenter said that a pin here solves the common issue of the hood flipping up and wrapping itself around the roof. So I made one up. It's just a random hairpin, a spare length of wire, and I drilled through that central stake. Now this doesn't hold the hood tight, it just acts as a safety. If the latch comes undone, the hood will pop up and this will catch against that piece of metal. So ideally the driver will notice the hood's dancing around and get out and fix it. Definitely better than the alternative. Oh wow. Tide's up. River's full of crap too. Hey, there you go. A completed Studebaker. Resplendent with both license plates. Okay, it does still need a bath. 6.5 years. Why? The dome light's back. It's magic. Studebaker bath time. Because with any luck at all, this is my last day with this thing. Just between us, this paint job's not very good. That's okay. Dave's actually gonna paint this car at some point. It'll probably be the next big step. But it's better. Most of the chunks are off anyway. It is gradually turning more salmon pinkish, so I should probably stop now. Good news. The Studebaker is 100% watertight and all the weather stripping is great. Definitely doesn't leak under the dash from like the wiper stuff either. Yay, it's just brand new carpet. I can't see anything. That's the good news. Have I mentioned that this thing actually like drives okay now? I did air up the tires, check the torque on the wheels again, all those things. I went right through my hole, of course. We'll go slow, try and knock the chunks off. Oh yeah, crazy thingy. My wrist is getting better, but it's still not great. Sure. Adjusted the throttle linkage so it would like hopefully get full throttle, but it still just feels weird. It's like there's not enough travel. It's like 0% or 90%. Those are your only options. It's fun. Check. Oh, there's the pedal. Oh yeah. Those are still brakes. There's a stick in the road. Test drive with this thing just reveals more things that need to be fixed. As long as you're like in the throttle and in the boost, there's no vacuum advance, so there's no pinging. Commenters have mentioned that in some cases the vacuum advance pod is adjustable. This one isn't. And even if it was, what you can adjust is the preload on the spring. Not tweaks the precise point at which all the timing comes in, but it has nothing to do with the final number of degrees. To modify that would get a little more involved. We might be finding out in a minute here. Oh yeah. I do still need to change the speedometer gear. It works when you pull it all the way out. Well, now this is happening. Crazy science stuff. This is what I've come up with. I wrapped 2 zip ties around through the gap in there. That is what sets the maximum amount of vacuum advance. I wrapped them around, squished them with pliers, and kind of melted them together. I should probably like, I don't know, super glue or epoxy this. But I don't really know if it's going to work yet, so proof of concept. But if you look really closely, I closed off about half of that gap with the 2 zip ties. This previously gave about 19 degrees of timing, or maybe 18 and a half, if that mark's to be believed. So now it'll probably be like 9-ish. All right, forget the zip tie science. Didn't work. Probably going to go to my old friend, the welder. Put a little zap on that tab in there and limit the travel out of this thing. Yeah, housing's not steel, so doesn't weld so well with the MIG setup. Anyway, I've finally thought of an elegant solution. I'm going to tack weld this washer in there, closing off the gap perfectly. You would not believe the amount of profanity involved in getting that back in there. I would. Anyway, let's test it again, I guess. Funny, unrelated story. I thought I had adjusted the throttle pedal so it would do more the other day. I actually adjusted it so it would do less. I think it's set up wrong, but I kind of matched what was here before. I think that stud's supposed to be there, and then the springs are supposed to be on there. But I already custom fitted them there, and well, I don't feel like moving it. So I shortened up the rod, flipped it to the top over there, and I think it's going to do a lot more now. Let's drive this thing. It's got to be fixed forever now, right? Yeah. Watch the mud puddle. The throttle does something now. Here's the no pinging. The wheel hop is quite bad. Perfection, or at least acceptability, I guess. I think we're finally just about ready for a highway test drive. Watch out for the log. cases, the spark plug can heat up and act as sort of a glow plug. Especially under boost, that's when you're going to have the most problems. Higher cylinder pressure and what have you. I'm going to really carefully lift this home. The pinging's not excessive, but no pinging is good pinging. If you don't know what pinging is, that's pre-ignition. The fuel air charge is lighting too fast. It's trying to force the piston back down before it's actually reached top dead center and turned back around. Nothing good comes from that. Yeah, so I'm super smart and good at everything. These are plugs for a naturally aspirated engine. And it's New Year's Eve, so I guess I won't be replacing them tonight. Anyway, at least it looks like the tune's pretty close. All right, I had a random thought last night, so I thought I'd check. Timing was where I set it, but I did back it down a little bit. It's now 11 degrees base, which actually got 24 total. So I guess the curve was a little wider than I thought. My vacuum advanced modification does seem to have yielded exactly 10 degrees, near as I can tell. So that's great. I'm sure this will help. It sounds really good right now, but I'm still going to change the plugs. Those are the same heat range used in a naturally aspirated engine, which this would have been originally, but in an R2 engine, they drop them 2 heat ranges. So I'm going to try that. I'll also probably run a slightly smaller gap. Of course, if it needed an RN plug, I've got plenty of those, but it needs an RJ12. Typical. Here we go again. Spark plug heat range. If you don't know anything about that, here's an easy visual comparison. Note the one on the right, the head of the turtle sticks out of the shell further. The one on the left is more back in there. That one will tend to run cooler and hopefully won't become a glow plug, which this one might. All of the Studebaker R engines used that type of plug. The factory low performance engines use that one. I'm going to switch to this, and I'm also going to look up what the gap should be with the supercharger. Not very much, probably, although the boost level is, let's face it, low. According to the internet, 32 thou is the gap we want, and that's where they're at. Here are all of the driver's side spark plugs in order. Looking pretty good there. Nice rusty orange color on 3, 5, and 7. Number 1 comparatively looks slightly lean. I think it's fine, but apparently the fuel distribution is slightly less than stellar. Truth be told, I almost never check spark plug gaps because they're almost always perfect right out of the box. In this case, I thought it was a good idea, and of course, they were perfect right out of the box. You do always want to check them for crushed tips though. If they've been dropped, that's a bad thing. Even side spark plugs, they pretty much match the odd side, so I guess that's a good thing. I had to pull the air filter and tube assembly to get to these, which brings me to one more thing I want to mention, and it's this. That should be attached to a crankcase breather hose. An original supercharged engine would have a breather attachment down there on the oil pan, but this isn't an original supercharged engine, so it doesn't. Apparently valve cover breathers are another feature that could be found on these engines, but of course this one doesn't have that either. It has a PCV valve down there in the valley plate, and it has a breather here, and that's it. Unfortunately, because boost, oil is kind of continuously being forced out of this breather and all over the top of the engine, which is not ideal. We have some ideas to address this in the future, namely the correct oil pan or making the correct oil pan. But for now, I'm probably going to wrap all that with rags and say a prayer, because oil streaming back and ending up on the windshield would be highly inconvenient on the highway. I was working on my oil catching rag install when I came up with this elegant solution. The Studebaker breather, same mounting system as the earlier Chrysler breathers from the 60s. I just happen to have one of those, and it has a hose nipple. So I added a hose, which goes to the air cleaner. Unfortunately, that is going to result in a good bit of oil ending up in that air filter. There's not a whole lot I can do about it, and it definitely beats the alternative. Oh, also, I previously had the wrong air cleaner gasket. Not even sure where I found that. It looked like it was stealing, but maybe not. Random big block head gasket set has the right one, so there we go. After all of that, shifting. This is still a new engine. That's 50 miles away. That's one hell of a test drive. Might even make it there. Someone move the stick. So far, so good. This is excellent. I probably should have waited to wash it until I finished all of the testing. That's my bad. Oh yeah. I think the wheels hit the sway bar at full lock. There was evidence of that with the old sway bar, and of course this one is much larger. Limited slip works. Mid-test drive systems check. So far so good. I'm not seeing oil pouring out, but if it does, the ride should catch it. And there's none pouring in here yet, although it'll probably take a while to fill that hose. I could be wrong, but I think we've got a car here, finally. This thing is absolutely not a supercar, especially by today's standards. But man, is it fun, and it makes all the right noises. Of course, the important thing on that test drive we needed to learn was whether or not it pinged anymore, and I don't think it does. I dropped all the way down into fourth and took off from like 20 miles an hour with pretty hard throttle. Never heard even the slightest hint of it, so I think we're gonna be good. I think. Incredible. Time for coffee and a bagel, and then I'll install the speedo gear on the ground because the lift is occupied. I was wrong about the type of speedo gear in here. My memory is terrible. Did you know that?
Do you think this car will make the 100-mile round trip home? I guess we'll see. Good thing you have AAA.
Yeah.
Old car life. I'm still shocked that that works. That car's been in our life for a long time. It's kind of weird to watch it drive away. I'm sure it'll be back eventually.
Well, here we go. See if I can make it through the roundabout in one piece. That's a good start to a road trip. Oh yeah, buddy. Too cool. Great taste. Lovely. The cheap station was busy. Did I mention it's New Year's Day? Perfect day for a road trip in this, right? It's not like there's a crap ton of traffic or anything. Well, I put in 5 gallons of the world's most expensive premium fuel, so guess we'll see how far that gets us. On the road again. Oh, this is fine. I love it. Why aren't I ever boating? I should be boating. Because the replacement speedometer gear didn't fit, the speedo is still very inaccurate. That's fine. At least it kind of does something. It's hopeful, you know? 5th gear, highway speed. Sometimes I think I'm still hearing the faintest hint of pinging. But as soon as you get into the throttle and the vacuum drops off, the pinging goes away. I'm probably going to have to delete the vacuum advance entirely. Even that 10-degree curve is just too much. I don't know why that is. Premium fuel, relatively low compression, not much boost at this RPM either, but any pinging is bad pinging. So far so good with this breather setup. There's no oil flying everywhere. Vacuum advance line capped. Well, this is interesting. Is that water? Not sure. Don't see any coolant coming out of the radiator. Other than the vacuum and light pinging thing, everything's looking pretty good. Coolant temperature, oil pressure, all beautiful. With the vacuum advance disconnected, that very slight hint of pinging is gone. I will say at lower RPM now, like say cruising along in 5th gear, it's a little laggy. That does make sense. I could bump the initial timing up a couple degrees to compensate for that, but we need to make sure the total timing ends up at like 26 or maybe 28, probably no higher, because boost. The engine's definitely not getting hot, but there is a hot smell. I'm wondering if that's the heater in the floor next to me. I've discussed this a bit before, but Studebaker, especially in the early 60s, didn't have a whole lot of money. The suspension and steering and everything else in this car really is carried over from the 1950s. It doesn't really handle that great. It rides okay, but it's nothing like the torsion bar equipped Mopars I'm used to, you know? This thing doesn't drive like a modern car. It's fine. It's not a high-speed highway cruiser. Of course, with the extra horsepower and the 5th speed in this transmission, that's kind of what we tried to build here. I'm going to say mixed results. I don't know, the car is super responsive to changes in the roadway. It doesn't feel super confident. It's fine. Everything's fine. At least I can be confident the wheels and suspension probably aren't falling off anymore. It still smells hot. I'm not a fan. I should have brought a fire extinguisher. I did bring tools. I could be wrong, but I think that's Mopar Ranch Tom over there. Huh. This entire highway is one big construction zone right now. I've seen a bunch of cop cars with flashing lights going the other way, and the last one I just saw was the best. A regular looking Ford Escape. I've only just remembered that I'm breaking in a brand new engine, clutch, transmission, and differential all at once. I'm varying my speed a little bit, dropping it into 4th for periods and then back into 5th. That'll probably help. Ooh, a Dodge van doing work. Cute little shorty one. The difference between 4th and 5th gear is a lot. This is cruising in 4th at what I can only assume is about 55 or 60 miles an hour. Oh, puppy! Oh, also a Chrysler 300S, whatever that means. It's only 3:45 p.m., but it's already really dark. Gross. The burning smell's gone. All the gauges are giving me good news. So far, so good. I think we're down the highway like 25 miles? That's almost halfway. There is a bit of exhaust smell in here. I know. I was shocked too. Anyway, I tried to open the vent window, but it won't move. Then I remembered the fancy floor vent, so I opened that. It does something. Mostly it makes my feet cold. Man, it's pretty here. Entering the Black Hills. I just remembered a minute ago. I think I'd probably put 40 or 50 miles on this car, just test driving it across town and such. I'd never had it at highway speed or really cruised in 5th gear before just hitting the road. Classic. Oh, good. More construction. Test the heater again, and there it is. With the heat control down, the burning smell slowly fades away. That does make sense. I mean, this car's been sitting around with no carpet, dust, and horrible stuff getting in there for a really long time. Gambler Thunderbird! Oh, it's awesome. If ever we're gonna ping, I think it would be now, but it's all good. I'm pleased. The city. My favorite. We made it, almost.
Turn left onto Pacific Avenue Southeast.
Okay, fine. Man, I used to be up here all the time, but I have no idea where I'm going now. I had to ask the maps. garbage can CUDA was lost right here, coming out of this.
In 800 feet, turn right onto 7th Avenue Southeast.
Okay, I was trying to tell a story. It made it. Nice. Now it just has to make it home. And then back here again. Are we pleased?
We're very pleased so far.
Nice.
Wow.
With the vacuum advance unhooked, I thought bumping the timing a few degrees would be a good idea. No, it's pinging again at 28 degrees total, so we're gonna back it off as soon as we find a quiet spot to do that. Since I'm in the passenger seat now, I get to look at all this cool paperwork. Starting with this, a receipt for an engine rebuild in 1983. Wow, apparently it needed 3 valve seats and guides and stuff. Here's a copy of the original sale contract. This guy traded in a 57 Hawk. That's pretty cool. Also, I was surprised to learn this thing cost almost $3,400 in 1961. My Demon only cost about $3,200 10 years later. 1961 owner's guide. Neat. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine. Oh yeah. Look at that. We're right back in my driveway. And no one died. Dave seems pretty pleased.
Very pleased.
I even gave him the bill, and I think we're still friends, so that's good news. I'm excited to see it leave. No offense. What a wild ride. It only took 6.5 years. That's not bad. Anyway, I'm sure we'll see more of this car someday, but for now, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I think I did. Dave did.
Sure did.
Thanks for watching. Just a little treacherous. Beautiful.